I'm Alex Howard.
And I'm Amanda Silver, and this is Dirty Laundry.
So, welcome so much, Jay, to Dirty Laundry. We're so delighted to have you. And we here at Dirty Laundry like to really get into the weeds. So, if you're open and willing, tell us a little bit about your story. Becoming a co-parenting coach, a divorce coach, it's a real niche market that not everyone wants to dabble. So there's got to be a backstory of how you arrived here.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I feel like there's so many different places I could start the story.
Mhm.
Like quick snippets would be like, I was raised by a single mom.
Okay.
The journey for me, I don't know my dad, and
Okay.
I met him three times. Once was when I was a baby. He was in jail. My mom took me
Wow.
to see him. Then at 7 years old, and then again the last time at 12 years old. And like I have like fleeting memories of those two experiences, right? But like other than that, not involved whatsoever.
Yeah.
So for a lot of the time, it was me and my mom, and for all intents and purposes, like she loved me, and I know that. I have no questions about that. I learned a lot of how emotional moms and women can be, and
Mm.
kind of from the person causing some of the emotions.
Mm.
So I
Interesting.
didn't learn, yeah, I didn't learn a lot of the structure and the
Mm.
discipline and the like man side of things
Mhm.
on how to act in a correct way. So I feel like a lot of my early upbringing was manipulation, getting out of trouble, getting
Mm.
into trouble, getting out of
Mm.
trouble. And my mom was my initial training ground, really.
Right. As a father now, can you see that that belief was correct? Like that you need to have that sort of male and female energy in parenting?
Yes.
Mm.
And I think that I see it as far as in my own parenting and in coaching now, because a lot of the women that I work primarily with women now, with
Okay.
moms, co-parenting moms. And, you know, as a dad, I am taking risks. My kids aren't always in the proper car seats, and they're not always
Mm.
wearing
Huh.
seatbelts. And, the way that they learn to swim has sometimes been to just throw them into the
Right.
water or let them ride their bikes down a fast hill without helmets or anything. And
Yep.
it's, those are actually a lot of the same
We were
those are a lot of the same issues that like a co-parenting mom will bring up to me, like, "Oh my gosh, you'll never believe what his dad
Yes.
did." And it's like,
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
done that. I've
Yeah.
been drunk around my kids, guys.
Yeah.
I've been high
Yeah.
around my kids.
Yeah.
And the women that I coach will bring that to me as like evidence that this guy is terrible. But
Mhm.
I'm who they're paying to help them change their lives. And
Mm.
I've done those things. So
Yeah.
I really feel like the perspective that I offer is as much as the methodology that I offer.
Mhm.
Like I can share it from, I've been the jerk, I've been the
Mm.
player, I've been the
Mhm.
I've never been a deadbeat dad. I won't claim that. I've been
Okay.
a great dad since day
Yeah.
one. I
Yeah.
haven't been a great co-parent for sure.
Right.
um so I just, it's wild how much it all works together. Like the more
Yeah.
I grow up, the more I heal, the more I feel like I'm able to offer.
How did you find yourself in a co-parenting situation? You obviously met a partner, you had some babies, and then things fell apart. What was that part of your life? You like,
So this is
glossed
She's
like
over
check.
my
those? Yeah.
She's chuckling because it's a loaded question,
Oh
right? Because
Yeah.
we know you have
this
a
is what yeah, you guys are mediators, like there's a bit more professional way
Yeah.
to get to your endpoint. Mine was like, let me just see how effed up I can get my life, and then
Oh.
see if I like, not even see if I can make something out of it. But it was like, my story is that my co-parents and I were friends with benefits, and
Mm.
like we weren't even
Together.
girlfriend boyfriend. I
Okay.
don't even think we went on a single date
Oh, wow.
before she had a kid.
So
And
childhood friends or colleagues, or how did you meet?
we met working together, like, when I was like mid 20s, I was like 25 when
Okay.
we met. And we worked together at a daycare.
Of
Like
course.
that, I tell you, I really wanted to be a dad. Um,
Aw.
but like to me, it was so quickly like I talk to people, and men in particular seem to understand this, but it was like a drug. It was like
Mm.
the sex was so toxic that it was
Yeah.
like I would almost act like an addict, like
Wow.
trying to get back to it. And
Yeah.
to me, what I realized is that that was such a deep wounding in me that like this need to be chosen, obviously, because my
Yeah.
dad literally didn't choose me. And
Yeah.
then my mom, who was operating out of this survival mode, like didn't choose me out of pure love. It was more like obligation. That's what moms
Yeah.
do.
Oh.
And so like for me, one of my deepest wounds is like feeling chosen. So I would just like shift and become who you needed me to
Yeah,
be. Like I was,
chameleon. Yeah.
I think I'm slightly charming, so it's like
You're
I could
very
slip into
attractive. That
You got
goes without
those
saying.
gorgeous
I
blue
mean, this is a handsome
eyes.
fella,
So
ladies and gentlemen
handsome.
and people, whoever.
All the people listening and watching, he's handsome.
Well, thank you. And so it's almost like that pretty privilege of like
Yeah.
you get away with more
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that point. And so we she got pregnant, and at that point it was like, well, I wanted to be a dad, but this isn't how I thought it would go. So there was a lot of like, honestly, I thought I would ruin my life. I thought like I had been thrown, I wasn't doing, to be fair, I was like working at the daycare and like at a running store because I used to run.
Nice.
And it was like, it wasn't like I had this like trajectory I was on, and I
the
ruined
corporate
it.
ladder.
It was more but it was just not the way I had planned my life out. And so we from the start decided to co-parent. Like we didn't try to make it work because we weren't in a relationship to make work.
Those
like,
Christian
really
roots of yours didn't jump in and you're like, well, better make an honest woman out of her.
to kind of tie that back to the Christian roots, is like sex was like the worst thing in the world to my mom. Like that was not a topic we discussed. That was not like, so me going into this court, and it, obviously like was there is for getting pregnant that way.
Yeah.
I was so scared to tell my mom,
Like the shame.
which is so ironic because like clearly my mom wasn't exactly prude. Like she had her own journey with sex and relationships because I've got siblings that we don't share a dad.
Okay, I was gonna ask you.
But the reality of it was that like you go from being like almost drug addicted to the sex with with my co-parent to having a kid. We tried our best. I tried my best to like not do it again, but then she got pregnant again, and not we had sex again. I don't you guys know how it works, but it's like
A plus B
she
equals
got
C.
pregnant again.
Yeah.
And like the time that she got pregnant the second time, there was just so much like anger. Like I was like, it was literally like, how did we do that? Like, how did this happen again? Like
having relationships with other people, are you as sort of drug addicted to sex with other partners, or is it just this particular one?
So I guess the best way to describe it, because I also don't want to give out too much of our shit to the public that she hasn't okayed. But it was
of course.
I feel like what really set it apart was like definitely the shame around it, but also I think that we were able to explore sex in a way I had never explored before. Like we opened things up with each other that like I didn't even know could be possible in the sexual world. So it was just but I think at the root of it for both of us, like I was using sex to feel chosen.
Yeah.
And she was using it to like really find a husband. Like I think that's like that was as big of a need for her to like feel taken care of, to feel security, to feel chosen in her own way. So we were like, sex was the commonality. But again, like we're co-parenting, and I was dating other people, but it was never like I think that I might not have ever named it, but there's just no way I was being serious about it with anybody else. Like, how could I be if I'm still co-parenting and still involved? I see that, I saw my co-parent multiple times a week, and it's not like we were having sex each time, but like that hole was there, and I still was, under the pull. And, to me, the reality is I used to tell this in a way, like the whole story, and they're like that it was her fault. And what I've really had to understand is that like once I started taking accountability for like these were clearly my wounds that I was trying to get met, like I was ignoring so much. Like I remember at one point my mom was like, are you sure those kids are yours? And like that thought just didn't enter my mind. And then to be fair, she got pregnant a third time.
Wow.
And there was just so many things in that pregnancy that like that didn't add up, that just made me question a lot.
Yeah.
And then when that child was 2 months old, I got a DNA test on that child, found out that that child wasn't mine.
Mm.
That was basically like I got to know about the
Yeah, the
older two.
catalyst.
And so I
Yeah.
did a DNA test on those two, found out that they weren't mine either. And so, like, to me, like, the kids at that time were like 3 and a little bit of like a year and a half, like,
Yeah.
15 months old. So, like,
Wow.
that
That must have been
that's
so
the I can look anybody that I'm talking to in the eye and be like, I know what you're going through, and like if it's
Yeah.
betrayal, even if it's abuse, it's like I can go there with you. Like
Yeah.
I think that that's like one of my superpowers as a coach. It's like I'm not just telling you what I've like read in a book
Yes.
or listened to on a podcast. Like
Yes.
I've been to hell,
This
dude.
is
I'll go there
lived
with you and help you
experience.
get out.
Yes. By this point, 2.5, 1.5, the kids are ages, and
And
you're
newborn.
in love with them. You're obsessed with these kids. They're yours as far as,
Mhm.
the world can see. So what kind of gut punch is that? And does that change the way you look at them? Like, forget your own sort of, let's say, not shame spiral. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but all of your own feelings of your part in this. How does that make you look at the kids?
That's a good question. At first it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like at first it was just like it just hurt. Like the way I describe it and the way it really felt is just like it's just like life gets shattered into like a
Yeah.
million pieces because I meant it when I said I came into fatherhood, like I knew I wanted to be a dad.
Yeah.
And like I think that was actually one thing that like really surprised my co-parent was like
Hmm.
I came in like I got this shit. Like
Yeah. Let's
I
go. Yeah.
I've been working with kids for years. You
Yeah.
gave me two of my own. I am
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is my jam.
I've been
So like
training my
fatherhood
whole
was
life
all
for this moment. Let's go.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
I love
Like,
it.
yeah. And so like my identity was so wrapped up in being a dad. Like I liked
Yes.
being seen in public as a dad. Like I loved being with my kids. Like it was a persona.
Yeah.
So for me, initially it was like it just shattered that. Like that this is like, am I really a dad? Was the question. And like, are these really like what does it mean to be a dad? What does it mean
Yeah.
for them to be my sons?
Yeah.
What I've learned now is like it just really it's a freedom that like I'm actually incredibly blessed to have because there's no blueprint anymore. There's no there's no template for what I'm doing. So like
Interesting.
I get to do whatever I want and
Yeah.
like there's no like, oh, you're doing it wrong. It's like I don't think that anybody can talk to me about what I'm doing or like
Yeah. Yeah.
I get to decide. I get
Yeah.
to make it up as I go. And the coolest thing is that that's a very similar thing that happens in co-parenting. It's like you had this identity as a wife or as a husband,
Yes.
and now your identity is completely shattered. Like that's like,
Totally.
and that so many people struggle with that. Like,
Mhm.
but I still need to do this, or I still. And it's no, you don't. You get to
Yeah.
decide now.
Yeah.
And people have a hard time like getting to that point where like, oh, I get to decide for me. Like I get to think about what this means to me and for me. And I just, moms in particular, they just have no concept of thinking about themselves. So it's like
Yeah.
this guy who like should have no agency to tell, especially a mom or a woman, how to live. It's like you might need some of what I've done.
Yes.
That ability to
Yes.
reinvent yourself. It's like a second chance, which you don't normally
Yeah.
see in the beginning. Like you
Yeah.
probably felt like it was just a total shock and
Yeah.
a grief and all of those things that you feel in the beginning. But then once the dust settles, it's like, wait a second, I can reinvent myself here. I have an opportunity to
Well,
do
and
that.
I appreciate that because I did gloss over that. Like I spent a lot of time blaming her.
Of course.
Like I did. I spent
Well,
a lot of time operating like it was her fault.
Yeah.
And when I had that perspective, I didn't have a lot of respect for her. And I'm the type of person that like if I don't have respect for you, I'm not going to necessarily call you names or be mean.
Right.
I will act like you don't exist.
Yeah.
And to me, that was, I think that it took us a while once I got out of that phase for me to even realize like, oh, I'm still doing, kind of like damage control on and like repair for how I acted when I was hurt. And like to
Right.
be fair, that's not
Yeah.
to say that like what happened didn't happen, but like I think I also had to own up to what I did when I was grieving.
Yes, of
And
course.
that took a while to even just like accept
Mhm.
that I would have to repair from those
Mm,
things.
yeah. And even though you two weren't married, you weren't in a monogamous relationship, you're not, common law, you're not even living together, that I would assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the betrayal that you must have felt in that moment of finding out is probably very similar to a lot of couples that find out that someone cheated,
Cheated, yeah.
or they had a double life, or they lost
It
their
was
job
something
2
was a
years
lie.
ago, or there's some sort of
Something's a
lie,
lie, yeah.
some sort of, yeah.
But maybe not intentional. Like
Mhm.
how did she feel when she found this out? Because I'm assuming that she also thought that they were your kids.
Or hoped they were,
Or hoped
maybe? I mean, we can't speak for
right.
her,
I'm
but
just giving her the most generous
yeah,
interpretation,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
that they are your kids. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that must have been a shock to her as well, in some sense.
Yeah, and I've gone through phases of how I talk about that and feel about that. That's another place that like I'm able to help people with because I think that a lot of people are convinced that the other person's out to get them.
Right. It's
Mhm.
And
like an
like even if it was
agenda.
cheating or even
Yeah.
if it was all these things that like
Yeah.
they did this to me.
Right.
And I was like, no, I think that she was just as hurt and just
Yeah.
as like I think that she was doing the best that she could. I feel like she had to have known that I was an option.
Yeah.
I just feel like she convinced herself that I was the dad. And then
Yeah.
like since it had been 2.5, 3 years, like
Right.
if you tell yourself something every day,
Yes.
you're gonna
Yes,
believe
it's
it.
very
Yes,
So I
and
think
especially if
that
you
for
want to
her,
believe it.
She obviously wanted that.
Well,
Right.
this guy was a dad in training his whole life. Like, well, who wouldn't choose you, right? Somebody who works in a daycare, who is obsessed with the idea of being a
Yeah.
dad and being supportive. And if that's my option, I'm like, okay, I'm
Of
going to take
course.
it. That sounds like a winner. He's going to keep showing
and
up. Yeah.
yeah, so to me, there's like so much that I am able to see clearly now that at the time I just wasn't. But yeah, that's it makes sense, and I just feel like once you can get through the emotions, like
Yeah.
how she acted, you're right, like not clearly not to toot my own horn, but it's like yeah, like I would have chose me too, like,
Totally.
and I feel like when a woman thinks that they're going to be the one to change the guy, like I think
Yeah.
that she also would have loved for me to like wake up one day and want her to be my wife and like want to like take care of
Interesting.
her in that way too. And I just feel like as much as it was hard for me to let go of a lot, that was just as hard for her to let go of. That like, oh,
Yeah.
like this is never going to happen.
Yeah.
And to be fair, then like she did find somebody. Like
Oh,
she is
good.
currently married, and
Oh,
they seem to have a pretty good life together.
yeah.
They're happy, and they have. I think they've
Great.
been married for like 3 or 4 years now,
Nice.
and it's like that was another place where it was like where I kind of had to own up and remove myself from a situation because I was like I might not respect him. I didn't
Yeah.
initially, but he's giving her something that I was not willing to give. Like he's
Yeah.
doing something that
Yeah.
I wasn't going to. So like
Good.
get over yourself and
Yeah.
get out of the way. I
Yeah.
was like,
Get
Yeah.
out of the
Get out
way.
of the
so that's
Get out
way.
of the way. I think a lot of co-parents need to get
I
out of the
love
way,
that.
right?
That's an insight
Because
that
they
I'm
get in the way of just both of them moving
moving
on.
on. I think
Not
it's the
just
moving
the other
on.
person, but yourself as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're still stuck in that mode.
Yeah, just get out the way.
Was there ever a time, Jay, when you did think, oh, maybe after the second was born, where you're like, should we be together for the kids, or everyone's favorite line? Was there any part of you that was like, I can make it work?
I think after my older son's name is Elliot, and after he was born, we tried. Like I
Okay.
think
Oh,
we
you
went on like
did.
1 or 2 dates,
Okay.
and like, and to be fair, we were also spending a decent amount of time together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Two
Because
babies.
co-parenting
I
with a
think
newborn is very
That's
different than
very
like
right,
passing the kids back once a week, 7 and 7. I'll see you next week kind of thing versus this is an infant.
And that's your dating, like trying
Yeah.
to
Whew.
build something in those, wild months and years is
hormonal and anyways,
yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
yeah. So I think that it was just the way I think of it now is I think that we tried and it wasn't there,
Yeah.
and even now, like we'll be at like my older son does tumbling, and we'll be
Cute.
at a meet, and like we'll be hanging out and talking, and it's just like no, like it wasn't us. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
funny enough, I didn't help her make these kids, but we have these kids, and I feel like I'm supposed to be their dad, and she's supposed to be their mom,
Yeah.
and it couldn't have happened any other way. And I guess to me, like there's so much of my story at this point where it's like, how could it have worked out any other way? Like, I'm raising two sons who, one of our strongest similarities is that none of us know our biological dad. Like, what a wild thing to have happen. Like, I also feel like,
of all the traits to pass down
or
when you
to
look at your
share. I mean,
kids,
it's like putting myself
like,
somehow in your position, finding out that they're not yours. I'd be fearful that I'm going to lose those
they
kids.
could come and take them.
Someone can take them, or I don't have a right to them, or all the things that I think would go through my head.
Are you on the birth certificate?
Right. Do I have any rights to these kids?
Yes.
Do I want
is someone going to walk in one day and steal them?
Right. Am I financially responsible for them? Do I want to be all those things? And then, where are their fathers, and what role do they have? What rights do they have? Like,
so I had all of that. To numerous different degrees and perspectives, and to me, this is where, like, there's, I don't know if I've ever shared this publicly, but like, I guess part of that is still fear that, like, it could still happen. I knew for a year before I talked to her. Like, the youngest, the third child, like the youngest child I did, and I told her. But when I did the boys, I didn't tell her I knew. And to me, that was like part of the personal masochistic self-torture. Was like, then, like, every disagreement we had, I was like, don't you realize what I'm doing here? Like, don't you get it? It's like, how much
that's like a little weapon you're holding in your back pocket.
I don't think I could sit on that one. I don't know.
Myself with it. It wasn't doing anything to her. It was so I was on the birth certificate. And basically, after I found out about the youngest, the baby, like, I was like, we should legalize what I have with the boys.
Smart. Yeah.
So to be fair, this is one of those dicey things, and you guys probably know better than me, like, what my standing is at this point. But it was like, when we legalized me as their father, she didn't know that I knew that they weren't biologically mine. So my thought is, like, you had an idea, you could, like, I don't know, we could have checked. And that is probably, like, of all the things I've done that I'm not super proud of, I feel like that's probably the grayest of areas.
So you got you did the paternity test and she didn't know about it. That's what is my understanding. Okay. And you did it for all three kids, or she knew about the baby, but she didn't know about the older two.
Baby first.
And she knew about that one.
Correct.
And then the other two, she didn't know that you had done the paternity test, found out that they weren't yours, and nothing changed. You were still their dad. Nothing, like, and what was that like though for you? Like, finding that, I mean, we talked about finding that out, but then, like, pretending that you didn't know that whole time.
I think that I think what I kind of just described it was like, in my mind, I used it as like a way to be better than her. Like, in my mind, me doing what I did was like a way for me to always be better than her.
You chose to be there versus, which goes back to some of your own childhood stuff, which I'm choosing to show up.
I'm choosing these kids when I wasn't chosen.
I've chosen them. I'm their chosen father.
Talk about full circle healing, wounds, trauma, like all of the above. So your kids are how old now?
So they're like, one's literally going to be 10 on Sunday, and then the other one's 11.
Okay. So, and you started the coaching work, you've said for about 4 years you've been doing this work. So the first half of their life is just you're dadding, you're, going about, living your life, happy as a clam. And then what sort of switches for you where I'm like, I have a bigger purpose. I need to be helping people. I have a message that folks need to hear. Where does that come from?
So the original plan I thought was going to be to become a teacher.
Right.
I taught sixth grade for 2 years.
Cute.
And again, that's another place, like, oh, people like sixth graders, like 11-year-olds, they're so awful. I'm like, I love these kids.
I taught that age too. I love middle school.
Totally.
Those are my favorite.
I have an 11-year-old.
So
It's so fun. Yeah.
It's such a good age. Grade 6 and 7, I think, were my favorite.
Yeah.
They're not like teenagers yet. They're like,
but they're testing out boundaries.
Junior high body. I love it. And but I didn't last. I taught 2 years, and I really thought that was like my coming home. I thought that, like, I was feeling very prodigal son of like, this is the junior high that I went to. I just felt it all lined up, and then that got blown up. And I was a social worker for a little bit, and then COVID happened. Like this was, COVID times. And, we were all listening to a bunch of podcasts and, living on Facebook.
Yeah.
And Facebook was one of those places that, like, if you said the grass was green, somebody would come in and be like, no, mine's brown. So, like, you couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
So what I started doing on Facebook was just like asking open-ended questions. I would be like, what's one of your favorite childhood memories? Or like, what's one thing you remember about your dad? Or, what does honesty mean to you? Or like, what's, the hardest part about a relationship? And so I would just ask these questions and just post them, pretty much every day. And it got to the point where people were like coming to my posts and like answering the questions, and then they'd be like interacting with each other.
Yeah.
And then like the point where I knew I had something was like I didn't post a question one day, and somebody posted on the previous day's post, like, is anybody just sitting around waiting for this dude to ask us a question?
Wow.
And I was like,
that's
I
amazing.
love that. How impactful something so small that became such a community builder and a connector of people. I love that.
Yeah.
Well done.
yeah. So in addition to that, I was listening to podcasts, and two of the podcasts were hosted by relationship coaches. And it was like, I was in a relationship at the time, and, learning from like truly learning from what they were doing. So I reached out to two of them, like emailed them, and I was like, hey, like, how did you become a coach? Like, I'd love to talk to you about, how that happened. And like, neither one of them messaged back for a while, but then like a month or two later, one of them reached back out and was like, hey, like, if you're willing to like pay for my reduced rate, since I'm not going to be coaching you, I'd, be happy to hop on a call with you. I talked to her. She connected me with like where she got certified.
Yeah.
And then like, I got certified at the end of 2020 to be a life coach.
Yeah.
And initially I wanted to be a relationship coach because I just felt like human relationships was, what I knew. And then I tried parent coaching because I really feel like I understand children. And then like I did that, I was posting on Instagram trying to get, traction.
Yeah.
And for like, from January 2021 to like September, I wasn't moving the needle much at all. And then like in the middle of September, I made this post about forgiving your co-parent. And it just, as soon as I touched on that thing, it was like, here you go. Like, and that's
it's incredible.
Like,
one little thing that,
like from September of that year to December, it was like, I'm going to leave my job. Like that, and
that's how quickly it grew.
Like that was how clear the need was. It was like no, there's nobody else talking about co-parenting. Everybody will help you get divorced.
Yeah, that's the after.
But it's like as soon as you get the document signed and ink is dried, and then you got to go co-parent this person, who's there to help? You just got to run back to the lawyers, mediators, and it's like, what if you could just make decisions on your own? Like, what if you guys could actually learn how to communicate? I had this. One of my favorite stories was like, I had a client who was working with a parenting coordinator with her ex, and the main program I have is 12 weeks long, and like over the course of the 12 weeks. She and her co-parent like started having more conversations, like they diffused some of the conflict. And like they got to the point where like the whole thing that they were trying to do was write this parenting plan. They were trying to write this parenting plan. That's why they had the coordinator. And like through what we did together, she was able to sit down with her co-parent. They finished the plan. He sent it into his lawyer. The lawyer sent it to the coordinator, and the coordinator was like, well, I didn't help with this. They must have been talking to each other behind our back.
Oh my God. The audacity.
I love it when clients do that. I'm like, oh yeah, good for you. You guys figured it out without me.
The dream.
It's literally the dream.
It is the dream.
Like, I didn't have to get, have this discussion with you. Great.
Everyone's life is better if co-parents can communicate and de-escalate the conflict on their own.
But the parenting coordinator couldn't bill for that time.
How do you make money?
And that, I know exactly where I know. Exactly where they were going with that.
They had paid her $9,000 the previous 6 months. And then it was like, I don't know if I like this so much.
I've heard that a couple times with parenting coordinators.
Listen, there is a time and a place, not to shit on them.
No,
but like I always say I often say about lawyers as well, is they have to kind of justify their bill. And so often there is additional conflict created because of that. Or they think they know better, or well, based on my expertise. versus what you're
Mhm.
talking about. Well, based on my experience as someone who has to co-parent, here's the
Well,
reality of
and
it.
one thing that I hear from, like, I would say probably 70% of my clients is that one of the professionals, whether it's the therapist or the GAL or the coordinator or the mediator or the lawyer, is like, they'll tell my clients, oh, your co-parent's just the most, high conflict person I've ever
Yeah.
worked with. And it's
Yeah.
like, how can so many of my clients
Stay
have
this.
that person?
Everyone married a high conflict person?
How's it possible? How? How? You
Everyone's
guys
married to a
all the worst
narcissist?
one?
Yeah,
And this is
Yeah.
exactly.
like what I'll talk about is like, if all of you have this high conflict person, what does that say about all of you? Like, can we
Right?
just for a
Right.
second
Yeah.
sit with that? Like, if all of in the since I work with women, I feel like, and not that I can say this, but it's like, let's at least pay attention to if so many of these women are married to narcissistic men, and
Mhm.
all these terrible things are happening. Can we at least pay a little bit of attention to the behaviors, not that are causing this, but that are attracting this and making you
Contributing.
feel like that's what you deserve? So to
Yes.
me, like that, like I want to get to the root of it rather than like, there's so much that I feel like people are so willing to learn about the narcissist. They're willing to
Yes.
learn about the high conflict person. How do I co-parent with them? How do I
Yeah.
set boundaries with them? How
Yeah.
do I protect my kids from them?
Yes.
They're learning everything they can about this other person, and they don't learn anything about themselves.
Yep.
Like they don't learn. They'll go to therapy to talk about the
Yeah.
co-parent.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll go to therapy to talk about their kids.
Yeah.
And it's like I asked them a couple of questions, like, "Hey, what would you like your life to look like in 6 months?"
Oh, I like that
Well,
question.
I'd really like, if me and my co-parent could be on the same page and just be able to co-parent amicably. No, no, no. I asked you, like, what do you want your life to look like? Well, if me and my kids could just, if we could
Yeah.
just have peace. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Without mentioning your kids or your co-parent, what do you want your life to look like? Oh, um, well, nobody's ever asked me that before.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then how are you going to move forward?
Yeah.
How do you like, do you
Yeah.
even know what you like, or do you just know how to say no to them? Do you just know how
Yeah.
to react to what they want?
I think to
And
push,
it's just
yeah. I think to push back just ever so quickly, because this is always my usual, is women are not taught to have needs. We don't know what we like, what we enjoy. When we're sick,
Or
don't
you
worry, we'll take
suppress
care of
them.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
That again is the patriarchy. We are here in service of the men. Therefore, the less needs we have, the less we ask for, the more the man is happy, the less he is then adding conflict to our lives. So peace means making sure they're happy so that we can be left alone. But yeah, pushing back and asking, hey, what do you like? What do you want to do? What do you do for fun? I literally can't answer that question.
Okay. And I love that. I love that you said that. And I think that that's a lot of the messaging that gets pushed out there.
Definitely.
And to me, that's where I can connect pretty much anything co-parenting to parenting. If that's how we talk about kids, like I'm going to give my kids whatever they're asking for. My kids would have
Right.
ice cream for breakfast.
Yeah.
My kids would have no bedtimes. And would my kid be happy? Fuck no.
No.
Like they would. That's
Yeah.
not a happy child.
No.
Happy children need structure.
Yes.
And happy men need structure. They need pushback. They just will tantrum through it.
Right.
And to me, there's this duality that I need to obviously not need to, but I'm going to state that there is a difference in how an unhappy man will react, and there is dangers with that. So
Yes.
that's a baseline.
That's
I think that
a big one.
also,
Yeah.
right,
Safety.
and
I think that's also
Yeah.
over the overarching thing that we're not saying
Yeah.
is that okay, we talk about pleasing, we talk about, the societal standards of how women and men should behave, but we're missing is that there could be a safety
Yeah.
situation.
The root
and
of
we
it is safety.
and we
there is an
know
inherent
this,
there is an
yeah.
inherent danger, and I do
Yeah.
want to touch on that. And one of the women that I've coached, like I do coach women who have been through abuse, like pretty gnarly abuse that I like. It shakes you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one thing that I heard from one of them, and we were talking about it, working through this idea, is that if you think of the court systems and how they're able to address those things, it's like a sieve or like a kind of like a colander.
Okay.
And the system is there to catch the bigger cases.
Yeah.
I
And
love that
everybody
analogy.
is coming and saying, my co-parent abused me, but it's because they yelled or because it's like
Right.
not something that doesn't have an impact. Like those things have an impact.
Yeah.
If somebody, blocks your way out of a door, I understand that that's impactful. But if that's part of what's flooding the system than the woman who is getting pushed out of a moving vehicle. We might miss her more often because there's so many other cases. And I just feel like that's a nuanced thing. We don't have to get into
But
that.
that's
But it's
so
like,
true.
Yeah.
I
No,
think
it's a good
it happens
point.
with child protection as well. It's the same thing. It's that unless they're catching the big ones, right? When there's an emergency room visit or there's big things that they can actually pinpoint and say, yep, that's black and white. That is exactly abuse.
Yeah.
But all the other stuff that might be going on behind the scenes is getting lost.
Yeah.
And that's
So
just
to
because
me-
of, I mean, there's so many reasons why that is, whether it's systemic reasons or it's volume reasons, right? There's just so many people going through those systems that how could they possibly catch everything?
If there is one thing that you would tell divorce, co-parenting, relationship coaches to stop telling their clients, what would it be?
that your co-parent just wants to control you. It's not control. Your co-parent is going through every single emotion that you're going through.
Yeah.
You've been taught to internalize yours. They've been taught to externalize theirs. So they were a boy usually, but it could be a girl as well, who something happened to them in childhood and they would cry out and somebody would come and take care of it for them. And you were a person usually that I work with that something happened and you made sure like, oh, okay, well, dad's going to be upset. Mom will be crying. So I better not say anything. And so you learned how to keep it inside. So you attracted each other.
Yeah.
And so they're just behaving in the way that they've been conditioned to behave. You're doing the same way with your conditioning. So it's not that they want to control you. It's that that's how they act and you're easily controllable. Like
that's why you got together in the first place. Yeah. Yep.
So it's like you're very reactive to each other's conditioning.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things you can truly like, that's a mindset thing. It's a story that, it could have been true at some point. There could be facts behind it, but it is a choice to tell yourself they're not doing this because they just hate me or because they want to control me versus this is how they act that like I don't have any control over them.
This is what they
so
know.
I'm
Yeah. Oh, I love that take. That's brilliant.
amazing.
Yes. Very, very wise. And it's true, right? We're all just a product of how we were raised, that early attachment we were just learning about. And it usually is the opposites attract because you need that. That's your comfort zone until it no longer serves. And then now you're co-parenting with that.
And so they trigger you.
Yes.
And so it's, deal with the trigger, not your co-parent.
Yes. Oh my God.
So good.
Deal with your trigger, not your co-parent.
I love it.
What a mic drop to end off with. Thank you so much, Jay. This was a great hour chatting with you. We really, really appreciate your time. Any last bits of things that you want to share or just, how do people find you? How can we get a hold of you? How can we work with you? Give us the deets.
So right now it's on Instagram. Find me at Jay Skibbens. Within the next 2 months, I'll have a website that's jayskibbens.com.
Nice.
Right now, I'm accepting mom clients that you come into our 12-week program. We plug in with our curriculum, our weekly Zoom meetings. You get a co-parenting mentor. Like it really is a learning environment to show you the ropes, to show you how to navigate things. So
brilliant.
We are accepting new people right now,
Awesome.
and we'd love to talk to you. We can set up a call beforehand to make sure it's a good fit.
Yes.
But we're here for you. So reach out and we'll get you plugged in.
Honestly, guys, call Jay. This is brilliant. Thank you so much. We really, really enjoyed chatting with you.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.